Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. Alright guys, let's talk about depression. Depression hits us in so many different forms, in so many different ways, that it's hard to comprehend it completely. But there are things that we can do to avoid it. One of the leading causes of depression is trauma. We know this, but it's not the trauma itself. It's actually what we do after the trauma that leads to the depression. See, the more we bottle our emotions up, the more we hold everything in and we pretend we're okay, the more damage is done. Because there's nowhere for that to go. We can't expel it, we can't use it, we can't utilize it, nothing. Depression is the only emotion that we can experience that we can't use valuably in our brain, in our mental capacities. We can use hate to motivate us, we can use pain to motivate us, we can use sadness to motivate us, but we can't use depression. The only way to get rid of depression, or to even work on getting rid of depression, is to let it out. Now, this can be in the form of crying. This can be in the form of telling somebody, no, I'm not okay, I'm struggling, I'm really having trouble here, I'm really not getting through today, I'm really not okay, whatever it may be, okay? But you first of all need to admit that you have depression. You need to accept that you're not okay. It's okay to not be okay, but you can't pretend you are. You need to be willing to face this demon. You need to be willing to overcome this depression. Because if you're not, you're never going to get it. That's just the truth. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. So how do we do it? Well, the first thing that we got to do is we got to admit that we're depressed. We got to admit that something is bothering us, that we're not okay, that it's hitting us harder than we want it to. That we don't want to admit it, but we have to. Admitting you have a problem is always going to be the first step. Always. Doesn't matter if you're trying to quit drinking, smoking, drugs, relationships, whatever it is, admitting you have a problem is always going to be the first step. So you need to be able to sit down with yourself and say, you know what? This hit me harder than I thought. I need to find a way out. And talk to people. Talk to people you trust. Let them in. Let them feel what you feel. And don't hide it. A lot of times people will say, well, I told people about it. No, you didn't. You told people you were overwhelmed about work. You told people you were upset about this or that. Great. But you didn't actually tell people what the depression is from. You didn't say that the reason why you feel this way is because you talked to an ex and they got into your head. And it took you a lot to get out of that toxic ass relationship, and that ex was able to get back into your head in just a few minutes. And they did more damage than you thought. You can hide behind excuses, but the truth of the matter is, until you're willing to accept that there is a true problem deep down, you're never going to get any better. Now, the other thing about depression is depression comes in cycles. We need to understand what depressive cycles are, okay? A good example of this is, say, being overweight, okay? If you're fat and beautiful, or big, beautiful, whatever, do you. But if you're overweight and depressed because you're overweight, the pattern, the cycle is going to go that you feel like you're nothing because you're overweight. So it causes you to do nothing but sit on a couch and eat to feel better, because the food gives you a small dose of dopamine, making you feel a little bit better. But then you step back on the scale, and then you feel like you gain more weight, and then you do it again and again and again and again. And this is a depressive cycle. The more weight you gain, the more depression you have. The more depression you have, the more weight you gain. This is a constant depressive cycle, okay? We can break these with motivation cycles, but you need to be able to identify your depressive cycles. You need to look at yourself and say, you know what, I'm depressed about my weight. What am I doing to solve it? What am I doing to solve it? Am I exercising every day? Am I eating healthy? Am I watching my carb and calorie intake? Did I talk to a personal trainer? Do I talk to a nutritionist? What am I doing to solve this problem? And if the answer is nothing, then you know exactly where your problem is. You're in a depressive cycle. Now, to break a depressive cycle, you have to create a motivation cycle. Motivation cycle works the exact same way as a depression cycle. Okay? You do a thing. right? That thing triggers you to feel like you've accomplished something. That accomplishment makes you want to do more things. And over and over and over. Just like the depressive cycle, motivation cycles will get you back to normal. Now, the problem with a motivation cycle and the problem that depression cycles don't have is that they don't have a time period. Eventually, in your motivation cycle, you will plateau and you will no longer feel motivated by this action. Which is why it's best to have multiple motivation cycles on different platforms. Okay, so maybe I work out one day to give myself a little bit of a boost. The next day, I try to learn something new. So you're constantly feeling like you're achieving something. And if you're constantly achieving, then you don't have an opportunity to feel depressed. Okay? You have to basically outpace your depressive cycle with a motivation cycle. And your motivation cycle is going to have to change because over time you're going to lose motivation. Especially if you don't see an improvement. We live in a very now society. I want it now, instant gratification society. So you need to understand that if you're going to solve a problem, it's never going to be instant. Ever. Once you understand this, you can actually put forth the effort to do the motivation cycles to get yourself out. But what happens is people get into a motivation cycle, like eating healthy makes me feel good, so I'm going to eat more healthy. But I stepped on the scale. My weight didn't change. Well, I'm not working hard so that I can lose nothing. I'm going to eat the chocolate bar. Back to, I feel bad I ate the chocolate bar. I feel better when I eat the chocolate bar. And back, and back, and back. That's the way depressive cycles work. It is easier to get into a depressive cycle than it is to get in a motivation cycle. And that's the most difficult thing about the human brain and the human body, is it's difficult for us to become motivated to achieve. This is why I say if you are depressed and you want to get better, you need to set a goal list. A list of accomplishments that you can make. One for the month, one for the year, maybe one for a long-term goal, 5 years from now, whatever it may be. Okay, just make a simple goal list. And you don't have to achieve them. My goal list has been the same for the last 4 years. I've knocked off 5 things on it, but I still have 3 more to go in 4 years. Okay, it doesn't have to be achieved in the time frame you give it. You just have to try for it. The other thing is I keep track of everything that I do. So I can see the days that I don't work out, I don't work hard, I skip my workout, I skip my Japanese lesson, I skip my piano lesson. So that when I look back and I look at my scale and I go, oh, damn it, I'm not losing any weight anymore. I can look back and go, oh, well, yeah, I only worked out once this week. I guess that makes perfect sense. Plus I had Taco Bell last night, so that makes perfect sense. Okay, you have to look at all factors of life before you start feeling it again. This is how you stay in a motivation cycle. Keeping yourself active and keeping yourself mentally engaged is going to be the best way you can do it. One of the ways that I do it for my workout is I don't follow my scale. I actually follow my body fat index. If my body fat index is going down, I'm happy. Okay, because I'm also tacking on muscle. My workout includes weights, so I'm also tacking on muscle. So my weight may go up, but my body fat index is going down, I'm happy. I'm good. And if my body fat index is staying the same or going up, then we have a problem. And then I look back at my meal. I look back, okay, well, I skipped my diet here and I had a full pizza on this day. That might have something to do with it. And I also skipped 2 of my workouts on this day. That also might have something to do with it. And I also keep track of how much I do. So my workouts are 14 exercises, 30 seconds each at a 15-second break between exercises. And once a week, I up that to a minute. Of all my exercises, I up that to a minute so that I can keep from plateauing. And once a week, I track how much I can get done in those 30 seconds. So the rest of the time, I'm looking at the time, but once a week, I keep track. Okay, I got 20 sit-ups, I got 30 push-ups, whatever it is, in those 30 seconds of time. And I try to up that number every time. I keep track of how much weight I'm lifting. I keep track of how many reps I can do. Because it gives me ways to feel good about myself that have nothing to do with the scale. this is what you want to do. You want to create a multiple form of motivation that can give you ways to feel like you're achieving things without having a diminishing return. If I jumped on the scale every single time, then I would be pissed off every single time because I'm actually going up in weight. I'm trying to cut weight right now, but I'm actually going up. I've actually gained about 10 pounds in the last 2 weeks. But that's because I've also had a crappy diet. It's my fault entirely. My body chemistry, the way I look, hasn't changed, but I've gained 10 pounds. So if I went entirely off the scale, then yeah, I have a problem. But I've only gained 2% body fat. So it's not too bad, right? I've only gained 2% to my body fat. So some of the poundage that I gained was from muscle. So that makes me feel a little bit better. I can do twice the amount of reps in 30 seconds that I could when I first started last week. That makes me feel a little bit better. And I can get through my 1 minute cycle without a problem. And I do these cycles 3 times. I do 3 circuits to keep myself active. I do 14 exercises, 30 seconds a piece, 15-second break between 3 cycles. A 3-minute break between cycles. So keep yourself motivated and you will fight off depression. And here's the biggest one, guys. Here is the thing that really gets everyone, and this is the part that everyone's going to hate, but this is the truth, okay? You have to face it. I know you don't want to open that door. I know what dwells beyond it is terrifying, but you have to face it. You have to overcome the demon. You have to do it. There's no other option. You have to admit there's a problem and you have to face it. I can tell you right now, from my own personal experience, my father was both emotionally, psychologically, and physically abusive to me. Okay, he played favorites with me and my brother, which made me hate my little brother for all of his life. Pretty much. I've hated my brother his entire existence. And I've hated my father. And because of how my father treated me, I turned to drugs and alcohol, and most of my family didn't even notice. My mother worked 2 jobs, so she didn't have time to pay attention to me, and never questioned why I was going to the park at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because she had to sleep, because she had to get up at 6. So, nobody knew how I was dealing with the pain. Nobody knew that I was sneaking alcohol in school. Nobody knew that I was doing drugs behind everyone's back. Nobody knew. When I became a dad, though, and I found out I was going to be a dad, I wanted to be better than my dad. That's all I thought about. I wanted to be better. So I tried to quit. I tried to quit drugs and alcohol, and I couldn't. And you know why? Because I kept that thought process of everything my dad had done to me. Of hating my little brother, hating my father. So about 3 months into the pregnancy, after I'd gone to AA and NA meetings, about 3 months into the pregnancy, I went to my father. And I did something that I never thought I would be able to do. And I forgave him. I said, you know what? We can't change the past. We really can't. What we can do is look toward a better future. And if you're willing to try for me, if you're willing to work toward that better future, I'm willing to try as well. And we did. And my father passed a few years later. He died. But for those few years, my relationship with my little brother and my relationship with my father improved exponentially. And because I faced that demon, because I faced the thing that was holding me back, I was able to quit drinking. I was able to stop doing drugs. And I haven't had either in 14 years. I haven't had either of them in 14 years. I don't need them as a crutch anymore. I can overcome this world without them. Because I finally faced the biggest demon holding me back. And that's the thing, and that's the most difficult thing that people don't understand, is you have to accept the past as the past. The longer you dwell on the past, the more you will never see your future. It's just the truth. I'm sorry. And I know it hurts, and I'm sorry if I'm offending people, but it's the truth. You have to accept that the past is the past. No matter what happened. It's done. It's over. And yeah, it left a toll, and yeah, it left a mark. And yeah, when I think of my dad, I don't really think of very good memories. I have very few. But you know what? When I think about those good memories now, I can actually smile. Whereas before I got angrier. Because I didn't know why that man in my mind was different than the one I knew. And my daughter got to have good memories of my father. She didn't know my dad as an abusive, psychological, horrible piece of crap. She knew my dad as her grandpa. He bought her coloring books. He gave her love. He gave her hugs and kisses. She didn't know my dad the way that I did. And I didn't want her to. I didn't want her to hate her grandfather for something she didn't even understand. And I didn't want her to grow up without him either. Now, if he would have still been the same person who never changed, then yeah, I wouldn't have allowed it. But he tried to. And I tried to. And thanks to that, my relationship with my brother today is fantastic. We call each other all the time. We hadn't spoken for years before. We live in the same freaking house. Now we call each other all the time just to check in, make sure we're okay. All because I took the time to forgive him. And I know it's not going to be easy, and I'm not telling you it is. No part of this is easy. No part of dealing with depression is easy. It never will be. But if you want to overcome the demons, you have to open the door. You have to try. You have to be willing to forgive the past. Or you will never be able to move toward a better future. I hope this information helped you. I hope you're able to help yourselves and keep yourselves safe. And above all, if any information I could possibly give you, if you're feeling like you're breaking and you don't have anything left in you, please contact someone. Please contact someone. A hotline, a friend, a family member, whatever it is. Please stop giving in to the depression and the darkness. There are always ways to come back. It's a very obscure reference, but I honestly believe that this is a good way to look at life. And it's from the movie Warcraft. From darkness comes light, and from light, darkness. They go hand in hand, which means if you're stuck in the dark, there are always ways to find the light. You just have to be willing to move. As long as you stay in the same place, you're never going to find it. Things happen to us that we can't control. How it affects us, we can't control. So think about that, and like I said, I hope this helps. As always, take care.